Bank of Nova Scotia is the one that we're talking about. Now, before you click away and think, hey, it's another bank stock, maybe the dividends aren't as high as I want to, listen up. A lot of big banks are diving into this stock. The dividends are pretty juicy, and hear me out here. So far, the S&P 500 has dropped massively. Okay, from the top to bottom, it's still negative 17%, with tech stocks being at roughly negative 28%. That's NASDAQ 100. And if you also check out the lowest tech stocks have went this year, it was like negative 33%. It was a pretty nasty drop. And obviously with high inflation, the war going on, we've seen a lot of investors diving back into dividends. It's safer, and what better way to invest your several thousands of dollars than dividend stocks? So this stock right here, BNS is the ticker. It's been doing decent. In the past year, it's not. Okay, prices have dropped about 24%, but negative 24% really isn't that bad. It's a Canadian bank stock, and recently Canada has got one of the highest interest rate hikes, a whopping 1%. That's a lot. If I'll check out, so far this year, it went from $74 down to $55, which makes the perfect opportunity to buy. This is a stock that has always been extremely stable and a major favorite among Canadian investors. And remember, this company's earnings are really not that bad. In fact, they're one of the best I've ever seen. And despite the fact that stock prices are going down, the reported EPS is always way better than estimate, pretty much like 9 out of 10 times. Except, all the way back in 2020 during, late August. Don't really blame them because that was during the pandemic. But overall, it's a company that has always beat its earnings. And that is the reason why the stock has always been so stable. And they are paying roughly a 5 to 6% dividend rate, which is pretty good. Now, the dividends, are they increasing the past few years? Absolutely. And during the past 3 years, average dividends per share growth rate was roughly 3.2%. Past 5 years, it was roughly nearly 5%, and past 10 years, 6.1%. So dividends are increasing, but they're increasing at a slower pace. You can't really be expecting them to be increasing dividends super fast, but dividends are actually really not that bad. And the payout per share was like 46 cents, for the 3 months ended in April 2022. The dividend yield is 5.55% specifically, so that's actually pretty good. Now, higher dividends obviously get you more money, but the stock itself is very volatile. The reason why I recommend this stock so much is it has already fell from its all-time high prices, and prices at $55, the same price as was back in 2018 and 2019. And the earnings recently in the past few years have always been way better. And I could say the bank's condition now and the business that they do and the reach that they have is way better than they were back in 2018 and 2020. So $55 is super cheap. Okay, I think the price of the stock should at the very least be like $60, $62. So if you buy it right now, it's not like you're going to be losing any money. And plus the dividends are so juicy that you can't pass it up. Now let's look at some of the 13F filings. Now, some of these 13F filings are very important because you get to see which hedge funds and big banks are, holding, selling, or buying. And you do see a lot of these smaller trades, but you scroll down and you see Bank of America going all in. And this is actually one of their most recent 13F filings. This was reported all the way back around early June 7th specifically. And this is nearly 7 million shares. Bank of America is going all in. They own huge chunks of BNS, and their position have already risen up to a whopping $1 billion. And this is crazy because they only really own 14 million shares. In just one single quarter, they increased shares by like 100%. Okay, you usually don't see this kind of stuff. We're seeing Bank of America buying a ton of BNS. These funds are doubling down. Obviously, some of the smaller funds, they're dumping a lot of these shares. But overall, you get a net inflow of big whales. And when you see such a talented and big bank like Bank of America going 100% on BNS, this is a big clue that this is probably a really good bank stock that people really need to start buying. And their reach is really far, and they have been expanding their empire. And I gotta admit, they also hired more employees over the past few years. And this is a stock and company that's very healthy. The paper sheets and the financial charts are very clean. It's not a dirty stock at all, and they're still paying 5.5% every single year. That dividend yield is very good, and you're going to be catching these shares at $55, which is a super cheap price. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.